again with Tea Time with Carol. I hope the world is treating you well. We're still in the middle of this pandemic. Will it ever go away? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But even in the middle of this, I want to challenge you to be your best you, to find joy, to be grateful, every day, to find something, absolutely something wonderful to celebrate and be grateful for. So, come on in. Come on in. I'm pouring the tea. If you need something a little stronger, we can pour you a little coffee. Um, Fluffing up the pillows. It's all good. It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood. And I hope that everything is well with you. Today I want to talk with you for just a few moments on something that we've discussed before. Several months ago, we talked about this, and I want to bring it up again because I think it's important, and I think a lot of people suffer in silence about it, and that is the subject of shame. And I think it's interesting because what I'm finding is that this society seems to be moving away from shame. There seems to be less and less shame in the way that we conduct ourselves publicly. We all have seen many, many, many videos of Karens, out not just in the workplace, but kind of all over, who feel that it's their moral obligation to police people who are minding their own business and going about their lives. Um, and that's sort of an interesting thing that we'll delve into a little bit later. What empowers people to do that kind of thing? But I want to talk about it today just for a little bit from the perspective of people who feel shame for a number of different reasons, and if this is something that you're battling with, I am talking to you. And the shame can be for any number of reasons. It can be, because your parents divorced when you were 12, or it can be because your family shames you for your weight, or it can be you were a victim of child abuse and you blame yourself. You think that you are responsible for what happened to you. Any of those things and many, many, many more can be the cause of the shame that you are walking around with today. Shame is one of those very difficult emotions because it is so deep. And we're not going to talk about this today, but I think I'm going to do a series on shame, and I want to talk to you about how your nervous system and how your brain are impacted. We're not going to talk about that today, but in a future episode, we're going to talk about how shame gets in your brain and the parts of your brain that are impacted, and your nervous system, how that's impacted as well. So it's not just it's not an easy thing to deal with and to overcome. Um, a lot of times we think of shame as an indication. It's so powerful and it keeps us unable to share in many occasions, and we think of it as an indication of how bad we are. But the better thinking sometimes is, well, maybe it's an indication of really how much you care and how deeply you care, and not an indication of how screwed up or how inadequate you feel you are at this particular time. So, shame. Let's unpack this a little bit. It's a very powerful emotion, and sometimes it can just sneak up on you. You don't always see it coming. You can see some other emotions coming sometimes, but shame is one that kind of sneaks up, and hits you between the eyes, and you carry it around. I mean, and part of the reason for it, I believe, is because there's a fear that if people know this particular thing about you, they'll reject you. The feeling is they'll think you're stupid. Let's talk about weight. And a lot of shame has to do with the community that you're in. So for some folks, as an example, you feel you're overweight, and so you'd rather be dead than be caught outside in a bikini, because you think of all the shaming. What will people say? What will people think? I'm 20 pounds or 50 pounds or whatever overweight, and this would be the worst thing in the world. This is like the stuff of nightmares for you to be out in a bikini, even if the setting is appropriate at the beach, whatever. And so the cultural norm is you're supposed to look a certain way, and your family or your husband or significant other or whomever remind you of this, and so you're ashamed that you haven't done a better job. This is air quotes here. You haven't done a better job of monitoring your food intake or whatever, and it may be that you have some other problem, medically that has you, or there's a medicine that you're taking that has led to weight gain, but nobody cares about that, just that you don't look good in a bikini. However, if you go to Russia, for example, where the cultural norm is much different and people who are heavier are accepted in that community, then nobody would think twice. It might be a little cold, but it would be the community would accept you as a heavier person in a bikini and not even think twice about it. So what do you do? I mean, how does that help you? You're not in Russia, you're here, and what do you do with that level of criticism and self-judgment? And the problem is when you don't deal with shame, it gets bigger. It doesn't get smaller, it doesn't go away, it gets worse. So one of the ways that practitioners are looking at shame is to confront it directly, and that is like so genius on so many levels, because what you don't deal with gets bigger. But when you talk about it, when you confront it, then it's no longer the thing that wakes you up at night and the thing that has you like putting yourself in a box, because you understand it, and it becomes manageable. It becomes something that's very, very manageable. So, in preparing for this talk today, I came across an article today about this woman who she's a comedian, Brett Butler. You may or may not be familiar with her. She was very popular in the 90s. She had a hit TV show called Grace Under Fire. Did really, really well. She was making $250,000 an episode, and she made over 100, something like 112 episodes in the 5 years or so that the show was on. She's now broke and wasn't able to pay her rent for the last 6 months, and a friend of hers set up a GoFundMe page. And I was thinking about that in terms of shame. The shame that kept her from reaching out when she got 1 month behind. She waited until she was 6 months behind before she said anything. And, that's exactly what shame does. Shame has you stick your head in the sand like an ostrich, literally, and you think it'll blow over, it'll get better, if I ignore it, and I've certainly had this experience in my life. I was married, and this was during the time that I was practicing law, and my spouse at the time um, was acting in a way that was not congruent with. I'm trying to like speak at a certain level here. Um, he was acting in a way that wasn't congruent with our financial health. And I was so ashamed of the position that I was in that I literally could not discuss it with anybody, and, that's the thing about shame. I mean, it has you so bound, and you think maybe other people don't know, and they know. They know what's going on. It's pretty darn clear. But you're so bound and you're so caught up in the emotion, and you're thinking, I'm smarter than this. I should be able to handle this. I should be able to figure this out. And the more, and it becomes so circular, and it's so destructive. And it's I mean, there is a function. Every emotion that we have has a function. But the thing about shame is that it you can delay because you're so fearful of what other people are going to think or say, that you delay doing anything about it. And so Brett Butler, delayed seeking help until she was almost too late. I delayed seeking help until it was virtually the midnight hour. And so what do what do you do? I mean, how do you deal with it um, when you find yourself in that situation? And one of the things is, as I was mentioning, engage shame directly. I mean, look at it and separate your feelings and ask yourself, is this really true? Is this situation really true? Is this an indication of how, dumb I am, or how stupid I am, or, and stop blaming yourself for the situation you're in. You're in it. If you're a victim of child abuse, no, you didn't cause it. No, you're not to blame. If your parents divorced and you're ashamed of that, and a lot of times children think that they're responsible. Well, if I had been a better child, my parents wouldn't have divorced. No, 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 darling. No. Mm-mm. So a lot of times we walk around with shame that's really not ours. We're taking on responsibility for things that are not ours. So, we want to find ways to dissolve shame, and one of the best ways is to look it square in the face and to talk about it. The thing about shame is that we hide. And if you find a trusted friend or a coach or a counselor, or no, you cannot share this with everybody. No, I do not. I am certainly not suggesting that, because there's some people you can trust. And I know in the African American community, we have been reluctant to seek out, any help, any mental health, kind of care. But it's time out for that, because we have dealt with so much for so long. It's a wonder that we're all not walking around with PTSD. But it's important to get help when you are facing life critical kinds of things, whether it's financial or emotional. It's really important to get some help with it. Um, and understand that, um, you know, what you do. Look at the difference of between what you do versus what you are. You're not stupid. You're not crazy. If you found yourself in a situation, um, even if it's of your own making, it's important to look at well, what can I do to address it? As opposed, shame is like, um, it just eats at you, and it just keeps you, going around and around in that circle of, I don't want anybody to know. I don't want anybody to know this happened. I don't want anybody to know what I did. And the more you do that, the bigger shame grows. So, um, yes, please reach out and get some help. I mean, that's really, you know, one of the best things that you can do. And shining the light on it is important. When you shine the light, like, I hate to use this analogy, but like when you, um, not in your house, but I'm sure you've seen movies where this happened, where somebody turns on the kitchen light and the roaches scatter, they can't take the light. Well, neither can shame, so you want to, shine the light on this very, very hidden and very, very destructive emotion, um, you want to dissolve it, you know, just dissolve it so it no longer has power over you. So, my darlings, shame, empathy, opposites. How about a little empathy for yourself? How about, you know, spending some time just, and I can hear you saying, but you don't know what happened to me. What happened to me was different. Nobody has gone through this situation, this problem that I have. And I beg to differ. Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun, I don't know how many thousands of years ago. So, no, whatever you're going through, it's not new. Somebody else has gone through it too. And I just want you to know today that what you're dealing with, there is a solution, but you've got to be able to face it and not hide from it. One of the problems that I had when I was going through my struggle was that I just didn't want anybody to know. I didn't know how to form the words to say I'm in trouble. I didn't know where to begin with that. I didn't know who I could trust. I didn't know anything, really. I mean, less than nothing. I had no idea. But I'm telling you today, there are resources. There are people who are more than happy to help you, to listen and help you untangle, because this is like a big ball of yarn that's gotten all tangled up. And in order to address it, you need to start, pulling some of those pieces out and letting the light in, and just not being ashamed of the situation that you find yourself in today. There is a way out. There is. It does get better. You can change. You can find a solution. Well, what if I'm in a relationship and da 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 da, whatever your situation is, Well, what if he's, this or that, or, now if we're talking about domestic violence, you know, please call someone. There are 800 numbers. There are folks who are more than happy to help you and help you get out safely, but that's not love. That's not something anybody should continue to put up with. Period. Period. At the end of the day, think about, if you're in that kind of situation, think about what you're teaching your children. Think about what you're teaching them is acceptable for a man to do, or in a woman to accept, or the reverse of that, because women can be abusers too. So, shame. We're going to be talking about this for a while. This was not a sexy, rah rah kind of talk today, but one that I feel is important for us to look at a bit more closely, because we just kind of go in our separate corners and deal with it or not on our own. And I just want to be one to shine the light on shame and talk about it from the perspective of there's hope. You don't have to go it alone. And hiding out and trying to hide it only makes it worse. And so it's time to stand up, put your big girl pants on, your big boy pants on, and start saying, I'm bigger than this emotion. There's more to me than this. God did not suffer for me. Jesus did not suffer for me to be subject to this emotion. I'm more than a conqueror. And sometimes it means conquering emotions. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. All things. All means all. That means nothing left out. And that means something that you think is bigger than you. The question is, do you think it's bigger than God? Do you think He has no power over it? Do you think He has not equipped you to deal with the situation? That's how shame gets the toehold. We don't see the relationship between that and who we are in Christ. And if you don't understand that, then shame or any other destructive emotion will get a hold of you, and you're not in a position to cut it and let it go. So I just want to encourage you today, beloved, if you're dealing with shame, and if that is a problem for you, and for many of us it is, whether it is something that happened in your past and you're still dragging it into your present, I want to be the one to encourage you to cut it off today, so it's no longer a part of your present or your future. If you're dealing with a present day shame, same thing. I want to encourage you to deal with it so you cut it off and you can really move into a much better and a more flourishing present and future. How do you design a beautiful future when you're dragging stuff from the past? Think about that. It's time to let all that stuff go. Is it easy? Well, taking the first step is the hardest thing. But the more you walk towards it, the easier it becomes, trust me. And I'm telling you that not from some academic exercise. I'm telling you that from one who's walked it. That's why I can talk it. Huge shame that I went through. Lost everything. But baby, look at me now. I'm good. It did not destroy me. I came back, and came back better. So, beloved, that is what I have for you today. Shame is difficult to deal with, but it's doable. You can come back from shame, but you got to deal with it. And you make a decision to stop letting it deal with you. You make the decision you're going to deal with it. And remember, you can contact me. I'm available. You know, go to our page on Facebook on Tea Time, and you can connect with me there, or you can go to my personal page and connect with me. Carol Moulton, Moulton. But Tea Time stands for Tactical Education and Advice, and that's what we present to you every week here for you, beloved. So, my darlings, I'm going to leave you with those thoughts today, and pray that you have a marvelous, wonderful, blessed, outstanding week to come. And we know that you will, because God is good like that. And yeah, there's a lot of craziness going on in the world, but um, if you're standing on a solid rock, then no worries. No worries. Because He's bigger than all that's going on. Just remember that. He's bigger than all of that. All of that's going on. And sometimes, things have to be shaken up in order to really change. So with that, beloved, I'm going to leave you for now. And please remember, everything you want, everything, everything you want is on the other side of fear. So until next time, be blessed. Walk out of shame. If you walked into it, walk out of it. And be blessed. Be blessed. Till next time, this is Carol Moulton, Tea Time with Carol. I love you. Take care. Bye-bye.